For more than 30 years, the Winnipeg Wind Ensemble has been engaging audiences with the best in wind ensemble music. Consisting of 50 of Winnipeg's finest wind and percussion players, the ensemble has defined itself as the top standard for wind ensembles across the prairies. This Sunday, May 1st, the Winnipeg Wind Ensemble will be putting on a concert called Old Friends at St. John's Cathedral, which is at 135 Anderson Avenue. And joining me here over Zoom to talk about this weekend's concert, I am joined by their artistic director, Virginia Helmer. Hi, Jenny. Nice to see you.
Hi, Chris. It's great to be here.
Mm-hmm. I thought I'd start the conversation out by getting you to talk about the ensemble for our Classic 107 audience members, those who might not know about the Winnipeg Wind Ensemble. Can you talk about the group a little bit?
Sure, I can. The band started in about 1985. It was originally a group of band teachers in the city who decided it would be great to have a community band made up of people that played at a really high level. And so I actually joined the band the year after that in 1986 when I first started teaching, and I didn't live in Winnipeg originally. And it's been going strong ever since. So we started out with Orvin Anderson as our conductor and have been through lots of great conductors in the past. In the decade that started in 2000, we had Dr. Dale Launis, who was at that time at the University of Manitoba, and then Jackie Dawson, who's now teaching at the University of Manitoba. And I just got this position just as the pandemic was hitting. So the last the group played was in January of 2020, and I was the guest conductor, and that was my audition. And I won the position, and then we haven't had a concert since then. So we're really happy to be back at it.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Aside from rehearsing and performing the wind ensemble literature, I used to play with the group back in the day. And one of the things I found about the ensemble was it was a great way to hang out with friends, but there was also like a professional development aspect, right? Professional musicians could bounce ideas off each other, whether it's a music education issue or something. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That's definitely true. So certainly the last two conductors that we had, Dr. Launis and Dr. Dawson, because of their expertise in preparing scores and in conducting, for those of us who taught in band programs across the city, it was definitely professional development. It was a way to learn conducting techniques and rehearsal techniques, and a little bit more about the higher level music that we were performing. And then you're right, in the breaks, you get to talk with your colleagues, you make music with your colleagues, which is also a form of communication, and just really created a great sense of community and an opportunity to say, hey, I have a trumpet player who can't do this, or do you have any suggestions, stuff like that. Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. So the concert this weekend is called Old Friends. Why Old Friends? Where does the title for the concert come from?
Well, when we first started thinking about coming back and having a concert, because we've now delayed a return to a concert cycle several times, it was evident at the beginning of the pandemic that things like supply chains were going to be disrupted. So I remember saying, if we're going to do a concert, it has to be music that we already have here in Winnipeg, that we can access without having to send it away or buy something or borrow something from a band outside of the city, because we have done that on many occasions, borrowed from other bands or ordered things from the States. So that was the original idea. And then as things got further and further into the pandemic, I started thinking about the idea of just bringing back some old favorites, partly because people would not be in as good shape, and partly because we weren't sure what kind of rehearsal situation we were going to have. So to give you an example, this past week's rehearsal was very well attended. So there were only 2 people away. The week before, there were 9 people away. So that's a quarter of the band, because they were either they had COVID, they were isolating because they were worried they'd been exposed to COVID, and so we kind of saw that was how it was going to go. So I wanted to program music that was going to be rewarding for the band without having to be extremely challenging for us if we were working under those circumstances. And I also think that it's a bit of a gift to our audience to be able to provide something that's very accessible and familiar. Anybody who ever played in their high school band will probably have played the first Suite in E flat by Gustav Holst. So it's a way of sort of reconnecting with our audience as well.
Mm-hmm. So can you talk about that? I know that the Winnipeg Wind Ensemble is going to be performing Holst's sort of staple of the literature, the first suite. What are some of the other pieces that the ensemble is going to be performing?
Well, we're going to start with a piece by Alfred Reed called A Festival Prelude. And it's certainly Alfred Reed wrote a lot of music for wind ensemble, and this group has played a lot of music by Alfred Reed in the past. He kind of put us on the map a little bit in terms of like serious music that wasn't just pops tunes or whatever. So that will sound great in the church. The reason that I programmed that one is because it's just going to sound magnificent when we're in that acoustic. Mm-hmm. And the first suite, we also have a young trumpet player who won our solo competition. His name is Sam Ferguson, and he's going to be playing the first two movements of the Oscar Bohm trumpet concerto. He's an amazing musician. It's going to be a real treat for anybody because it's a beautiful piece of music. It's not the usual. It's very virtuosic, but it's also got a lot of meat to it. It's a beautiful piece, and Sam's an amazing player.
And sorry, I'm just going to jump in here.
Great.
How old is Sam?
I think he's 14. He may have turned 15 since I last looked.
Mm-hmm. I know his parents, so that's the reason.
Yes.
Why he's a great young up and coming trumpet player. So yeah, that's amazing. You're also going to be performing music of Malcolm Arnold, the Four Scottish Dances, which is just a great set of pieces for wind ensemble. But you're also going to be doing some selections from West Side Story. Who did the arrangements for that piece?
For the West Side
for the West Side Story, yeah.
West Side Story is by a man named Duthoit. It looks like it should be a French pronunciation, but he was actually an English bandmaster. He worked for the Chapel Army group for years, and I chose that arrangement because it's accessible for the band. We played it a lot. It's an old friend because when the Canadian Wind Conductors Development Program went on here in the first decade of this century, we played that a lot because it was one of the things that conductors could sort of learn a lot about in terms of tempo changes and style. So we played it a lot, and it was also written. It was arranged in 1959, so it's timely. It was timely with the original release, so it's got that flavor. And the reason that I programmed it was mostly because of the recent demise of Stephen Sondheim and the fact that there was a remake of West Side Story that just came out in 2021 as well. So people would be familiar with that. And it's just great music because Leonard Bernstein wrote great music.
Yeah, and I've played some of Duthoit. I can never say his name. Duthoit.
I think that's it.
Yeah, me too. I've played some of his arrangements of other wind ensemble music that's been arranged from orchestral scores, and it's really, really terrific. Ginny, the concert this weekend on Sunday sounds fantastic. Where can people go to get tickets? And can you talk a little bit about the COVID protocols that are going to be in place as well?
Tickets will be at the door. We have a fairly large capacity at the church, so we're not too worried about being overloaded. We're going to follow our COVID protocols of physical distancing and mask wearing for the audience. Our assumption is that everyone will want to be as safe as possible and that most people who will be attending won't have a problem with those. So that's the plan.
Mm-hmm. And this amazing group consisting of some of Winnipeg's finest musicians is going to sound, like you say, just phenomenal. I would imagine in a church. I mean, when I was with the ensemble, it was always at MBCI at Jubilee Place. It was where the concerts were, right? But I think in the church, it's going to be just amazing. Ginny, thanks again. This has just been a real treat for our Classic 107 listeners who want more details about the Winnipeg Wind Ensemble's concert this Sunday, May 1st. Go to our website, classic107.com, and I'll embed a direct link to the Winnipeg Wind Ensemble's website. Ginny, thanks again.
That's great. Thank you, Chris, and thank you for being such a great friend of wind band music.
Mm-hmm. My pleasure.